bad audio could completely ruin your podcast. Now, I'm going to give you 5 tips on how you could improve your podcast audio. If you've got poor quality audio, chances are listeners are going to tune out and your guests probably aren't going to be very happy either. Now, your first port of call, get a good quality microphone. Don't use your laptop's built-in audio. Don't use your phone. Get a mic. They're not too expensive. This is the Rode Pod mic. It's under 100 quid. You can get a USB version that you can plug directly into your laptop, which is great. Another one I have is the Samson Q2U. This is another mic under 100 quid. It's a USB mic again. You can plug straight in. This one's got a mic mouth or windscreen on it. It's actually seems to have a bite taken out of it. My kids have been using this for karaoke, so I don't know what's happened there, but helps if you've got quite a breathy voice and stops all that kind of air getting right into the microphone and gives you a better result. I don't actually have one on the pod mic. I might actually get one, but I quite like the sound of the pod mic without one. I can plug this in and show you the difference. Hold on. So that's the difference with the Samson Q2U. People just prefer different types of microphone for different voices. You might have a personal preference. Like I said, these are both under £100 mics. If you've got the budget, you can spend more, but just make sure you get some sort of microphone. But just getting a mic like this that you can plug straight in to your computer makes the world of difference. Now, don't get a Blue Yeti, please. Please don't get a Blue Yeti. The Pod mic and the Samson Q2U, the Shure SM7B, popular mics, they're all dynamic mics, which means they're picking up the voice that's going straight into it. They're not trying to get the whole room. They're trying to, it means you can speak into the mic and it's focused on picking up your voice as long as you get close enough. Whereas a condenser mic, such as the Blue Yeti, is really a studio mic, which picks up so much sound, and also people don't use it correctly. Quite a lot of time, if the Blue Yeti sat like that, you're supposed to speak into the side of it like this. Speak into it like that. And what everyone seems to do, a lot of podcasts I'm editing, the guests that my clients have on turn up with a Blue Yeti and they have it pointed like that towards their mouth. And what it's actually doing is now recording the desk. So every time they bang on the desk or even touch it, that's what's being recorded, which is a nightmare for me to edit and doesn't sound very good. So please don't buy a Blue Yeti. Get something like this and you'll have a much better time and a much better result recording. Now, secondly, make sure you are recording in a quiet space. No one wants to hear background noises of dogs or babies or traffic, anything like that. Washing machines going round. Get yourself a nice quiet room. Ideally, you want a room that's kind of not too echoey, not lots of hard surfaces. I don't have any sound panels or anything up in here, which is something I'm looking at putting in at some point. But even what I've got is soft furnishings like this chair. I've got a rug, which I don't know if you can see down there, and just putting bits and pieces in the room helps the sound from bouncing off everything, and gives you, like, reduces the echo in the room. But make sure it's nice and quiet. If you've got a Blue Yeti, I'm in an office in a garden. If I had a Blue Yeti, it would be picking up all the noises in the garden as well as all the noises in the office. Any birds or animals going outside or any builders working down the road, the Blue Yeti would pick that up. So these mics wouldn't, but they still pick up a bit, and it's how your voice reacts as well. So if you're reducing that echo, you get all the bits and pieces. You hear stories about people recording in closets because it's a nice soft space, but I don't think you need to go that extreme. You can see the room I've got here. It's not tiny. It's not got soundproof walls or anything like that, but we've got quite a nice sound in here anyway. If you've got the budget to go and book some time in a podcast studio, brilliant. If you don't have an office or a spare room, do it in your living room. Just make sure you're not going to get disturbed, and you'll get yourself a much nicer sounding podcast at the end of it. Number 3, monitor your volume levels. When you're editing, you may see that your guests and yourself, if you're looking at the volume levels on the edit, they could be very varied, and you've got to level those out to make the podcast sound consistent throughout. And you don't want those levels to be too high or too low, because someone may have your podcast in a list of podcasts and they don't want to go from listening to a really good sounding podcast, your one pops up and all of a sudden you're too loud or you're too quiet, or you and your guests are on different levels and they don't want to be turning the volume knob up and down depending who's talking. So it's quite important to have those sound levels correct to make sure that that when your podcast enters someone's playlist, that they're getting a consistent sound level, because there's nothing kind of more upsetting in your ears than all of a sudden something's much louder than what you were listening to before. And also if you're too quiet and people can't hear you, they're going to tune out as well, because it's a strain to try and listen to something that's too quiet, and you don't necessarily want to go and crank up your volume. And it's also a sign of the quality of a podcast, whether that sound is correct. So yeah, check your sound levels, make sure they're right. And this kind of plays into number 4, which is test your audio before publishing. So listen back, check for mistakes. Don't just rush to hit that publish button, because we all make mistakes. And you could pick up anything when you're listening back. You may have, not just the audio quality, you may have missed something in what you've said. So really important to listen back to how it is sounding, how you and your guest, if you've got one, are sounding, and then you can make any alterations before you publish that and make sure it's sounding really good before it gets into the listener's ears. Now, number 5, do at the very least some basic editing. You may not be an editor, you may not have any skills or know how to do it, but there's free tools out there such as Descript or Audacity where you can upload your podcast into, and at the very least do some basic editing quite simply, and you will end up with this with a much better end product than if you'd have just simply published it as is, as a raw recording. Now, these 5 small things will give you a much better chance of producing a podcast people actually want to listen to. Now, if you're not sure whether your podcast should be audio or video or both, this next video will really help you out in deciding whether your podcast needs video.